Justin Beal, and today I'm going to try to hook up Google Authentication to a FastAPI backend for my Assistify application. We're going to try to use Cursor.sh to help us along the way, and we're going to see what we can do in about half an hour to an hour. Let's begin. Starting off, I have my GitHub repo here, which I'll put in the description of the YouTube video, and then we also have the front end and the back end. And what I did last time was hook up a walking skeleton. So we can see on my front end app right now, if I look at the network tab and I reload this, this is a Next.js application that is deployed on Vercel, and it is talking to my backend, which is a FastAPI Python application deployed on fly.io. It's just hitting a random number, and you can see that random number is displayed here. And if we do the same thing over on our back end, we could say random number, and it just produces a random number. And what I was trying to do there is just make sure that I have a good communication between my front end and my back end, and had to deal with some CORS issues and things of that nature that come along with setting up a new application. And now that this is set up, what I want to do is make sure that when I sign into Google here, it's going to send authenticated requests. So I want to have a different response here that is an authenticated request from my credential that I got with Google. And let's see where we can begin on that. I'm going to pull up Cursor. I'm going to go over to the chat window, which I'm using GPT-4o. So I asked chat, how can I pass in my Google Authentication token from the UI and have it validated and checked on the back end? My front end in Assistify UI already has Google Auth enabled and working, and I'm trying to create a protected endpoint that can pass a request and validate that it works. So let's see what it does. I really want to focus on the back end at first. So it's right here saying pip install Google Auth. So let's go to the back end real quick. We'll say change directory, Assistify API, and then it looks like we're going to have to pip install Google Auth. So let's try that real quick. Going to add that. Okay. And then in our API, we want to verify the token. And then we're going to take this security for our API. We'll come over here and we'll go source app API. We're going to add this right here. Okay, and then we're going to need some other imports, so we're going to pull those in. We probably should add that to our Pi project, POML, Google Auth. We're going to add it up here, Google Auth, just make sure it's in our Pi project TOML. We have the HTTP token in there now. Let's see, is anything still yelling? All right, we need a Google client ID, and we had that inside of our auth manager. So we'll just pull that in. We'll probably do a lot of cleanup on this once we figure out how to actually make it work. So client ID there. And then what it's saying is all we just need is this user info depends verify token. So if that's it, we're going to come back to our Assistify UI. It's talking about having our service actually put that token on there. So if we say source service, instead of just fetching, we want to get the token. And we're going to make this a whole new function, get session. Where does get session come from? Let's see, is that maybe it's that right there. I don't know for sure. No. Okay, we'll ask about that in a second. Okay. Let's see, where was that at? And what's it say to change here? We have next auth. That all looks the same. To ensure the ID token is in session, update your next auth configuration. That looks the same. Secret, callbacks, async, redirect with URL, base URL. That looks like that. Oh, add to the callbacks. So we're gonna add. Looks like I wonder if we just add both of these. Although it says does not exist on session. Where is session supposed to be coming from? That's what we had in the other time. Okay, let's ask it a question about this. So if we go over here, we're going to say, cannot find get session. Did you mean session? Session is not declared here. I'm going to select that and paste it over here. Yeah, so it's saying import user session from Next.js React. We did that. Oh, and then we're going to copy the new fetch for our protected data. Okay, but now it doesn't think ID token does exist. So what if we try taking that real quick? It gave us a lot of other stuff. I don't know what's going on yet. The ID token doesn't exist. Let's get rid of that. We're gonna paste that there. Okay, apologize. You're right. The ID token is not a standard property in the session provided by Next.js. We need to extend the session to include the ID token. Let's make the necessary changes. File extends the session interface to include an optional ID token. Okay, so if we go into right here, we'll just say new file. We'll just say types.ts, and we're going to take that and we're going to put that in there from what it said. Okay. And then in our next auth TS, it's saying we want to, then I wonder if we need to try importing that import. Still doesn't think it's there. That's interesting. What is on session? If we say token is there, but if we said session dot thinks there's an ID token is equal to, oh, I wonder now if it's yelling because unknown is not assignable to type string or undefined. Where does token come from? Let's ask it real quick. Can we, okay, one more time. So it added close, but it doesn't think that's the right type coming from the JWT. Is the TypeScript for ID token property on the token object is unknown. I don't know if this is going to work. This seems like it's pretty silly. So from JWT, next auth JWT. Now that played nice. And then it's saying our service here, we want to update it to, okay, so let's try just taking that there and we'll push that through. And we updated some things. And then I would wonder if we come into just our login TS here and what we can do. I want to call the protected service only when the user is logged in. If it gives us a suggestion here, and then saying use effect. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, so now let's update the protected component to look like this. Components, we'll just say new file. We'll just call this protected component.tsx. And let's take all of this over here and paste it. I might have to clean up some imports. That looks correct. Fetch protected data. And then it returns in our service. What's it saying? Use fetch protected data. Const fetch protected data is there. Returns the JSON. Oh, because it returned it as a object instead of just the one thing now. So let's paste that. Okay, it doesn't, what does it say about that? Status is deprecated. Interesting. Right here, we actually need to include the status now, so that makes sense. So just copy the whole thing. So now we got those things there. It is happy here. And then I wonder if I can then just in this component here, we come over just to our login for right now, because that's where we're showing things. We have this sign out. So at the top here, this is, if it doesn't have a session, it's going to do this. So let's just add our component here and we'll say protected component. Doesn't like about, oh, it must have a single one. So we're just going to make a scriptlet. And now what's it need? Protected component, cannot find it. Yeah, let's import that. Okay. So then if I am, all right, let's start everything up so we can see it. We say hat run dev on the back end. Started. We're going to go to the front end. I'm going to say yarn dev. Okay, so we have a front end and a back end running. Let's try again. Our hooks were new. Continue. Oh, dang. That's it. All right. Now that we got this working, let's clean up some code. So I'm thinking that inside of our API, we had a lot of things related to logging in and stuff that are not necessary. So all we needed with this HTTP session, I don't think we need this session middleware, so we're going to get rid of that. We didn't need the auth token endpoint. Didn't need the auth token, auth Google. All these can go away because that was for actually logging in, and we're logging in on the front end. And then if we go into our auth, let's actually move this into our auth as our function. So we can come down here and probably get rid of all of that. And we'll go back to here. We'll just copy our imports that we need. Copy those imports we need, and we'll just put everything there. And it's not going to be that. Load.m, let's undo real quick. And then we're going to copy that. We're going to pay this here, get rid of that. We didn't actually need we still need this security, and we're going to put that here. And then the only thing we needed was the Google Client ID. We didn't need the secret, so that's cool. And we're going to remove our imports we weren't using. So that's pretty clean. And if we go back to our file, we need to import the security. I'm going to manually import that because this should be just from here. It should just be import security. No, we take this out actually. We don't need the security, but we are going to need the verify token function we made. So verify token. Let's make sure that we remove the things we're not using. This is pretty simple then. And if I go over to my front end real quick, let's verify that things still work. There we go. We still got our protected endpoint. And just to make sure, if I came over into my API, it's /protected, and I call that here, and let's just remove the bearer token. That did not work. So if we send that, we should get an unauth there. Yep, not authenticated. Cool. Then let's rename this to just verify token, because that's all it does now. Yeah, let's remove that. We could probably write a test for this. What's it doing in here? Let's ask our chat if we could write a test for this. We're going to do a new chat. Say, can you help me by writing a unit test for this function? Certainly, let's do that. Looks like it's got a positive and negative case. We already had the PyTest async IO, and you can run it using this. Okay, so if we just copy this right here, and we're going to say new file, verify token test.py. We're going to paste that right here. Need the Google, don't need Magic Mock, it had just extra imports. Okay, is that going to play nice if I go into change directory, Assistify API, and say @run test? One error, attempted relative import with no known parent package. Okay, and then it just needed a d_init. Now we're at a different error. So if we look at our test, what is failing? So the first one will run, first one passed, token valid, invalid issuer. Okay, and then value error. Oh, interesting. So I think all of our token tests passed. We just had an API test that's still failing. So we're going to probably get rid of this for now, and we'll do something else for it. So if we try our test again real quick, what is it? All right, beautiful. So we get pretty good coverage. We could probably easily add a test just for that protected endpoint, so we get that there. Let's do the same thing. Let's write a unit test for this endpoint. See what it comes back with. And it's just trying to mock the token out a couple different ways. It looks like in that test, we paste that there. It's saying client. Where does it think client should be coming from? Test app client. I thought I had let's do that. We should actually be using a test client rather than our imported API. These things here. Okay. So then API. I don't think this actually has to be async this doesn't have to be async. Right now, we're not doing any async stuff. So if we go back to our test, we shouldn't even have to do that. We should just be able to say client.second to pass. Nope, we don't need to await anymore. We're just going to say like that. That one passes. And we don't need the async. We're going to remove that. Just make sure it still passed. Yep. It's just def. It doesn't need to be async IO. Okay. So now, yeah, that verified token is not being called, I'm pretty sure. I run again. Not helpful. It's actually making it in here. I wonder if there is something we can do to just fake this out. If we mocked out the OAuth 2 here, I think it's what's happening is that the depends is injecting it, and we'd probably have to, since the depends is being dependency injected into the service, I think by the time we create our test client, our depends is already working. Our depends has already been initiated for that route. So if we look at verify token, we have this verify OAuth, which is, where does ID token come from? So if we patch this ID token here, we might be able to get something. So let's try that real quick. Rather than fight in our dependency injection, we came over here, and what we want to do is come over here. What we want to do is it's going to be source app verify token dot verify OAuth2 token, and that's going to be mock verify OAuth2 token, and this is going to have some kind of return value. I don't know what it is yet though. It's just going to be, let's just say, an empty set right now. That's not going to be right, but what we can do now is, and we're just going to leave this here, and then we're going to take this right here and just put it, it's not going to be called with that, but we'll be able to debug and actually see what it should return and go from there. Make sure it's mocked out first. Oh, source app auth verify token does not have attribute verify. Oh, it's ID token and then that function. So we're going to say mock ID token, and then that thing is going to have a return value. So let's try it one more time. Okay, so we're here, and if we hit next, our token is just a fake token, which we knew because that's what we're passing in. And then this right here should be a magic mock. It is. So let's step over. It's got ID info. It's going to need an ISS. So this needs to be a dictionary with an IIS. It's going to be a dictionary with an IIS. So let's do that. So if we go back to our API test, it's going to have a IS, just accounts.google.com. Is that exactly what we saw? If not in accounts Google. Yeah, so that looks okay. So let's rerun that real quick. So now we're here. We're going to step. It looks like then we got ID info. And then the user info does have some stuff in there. We'll play it on through. Did that actually make our test pass? Nope, because that thing wasn't. Get rid of that because we don't need it anywhere. Let's try one more time. Boom, green test. And then let's look at this last test for unauthenticated, right? I think what we can do is we don't even need to patch it because it will just return it as 401 without even patching. So let's try that real quick. And I don't want it to be a 500. It should be a 401. Let's run that again. Boom. And that's testing on our back end. We have this random number. We're going to get rid of that at some point. So I'm not worried about testing that right now. But if we run all of our tests, let's see what it looks like. That's pretty good. Okay. That takes care of the back end. Is there anything on the front end we should look at? Oh, let's try clearing up iProject TOML. So our dependencies down here, these I was just trying to have as being like the test dependencies and things of that nature, right? So we turned out we didn't need that PyTest async IO. Python.env should be moved into here, and it already is. then it's dangerous. I don't know if which of these we actually needed. Let's put them here, and then we'll say run test, just make sure this still works. All right. Did we need it's dangerous and fast API login? I don't know. Let's try running our test again. I don't think so. And if we restart our server just to make sure that the protected endpoint works, okay, we come back over here, we reload. That still worked. Oh, why is it called the protected endpoint so much? That's interesting. Oh, I got some kind of loop here that's not cool. We'll have to fix that. Yeah, it's just going, oh, dang. That's a lot of requests. So let's stop that right now. So that's definitely something to clean up on the front end. It was just totally, we don't need this auth.py because we did some stuff there. Okay, this looks pretty clean now. Is there anything else I would change? It's just a message. Yeah, I like that. Not too much code here. Okay, so then we're in a good spot. All we needed though was the client ID. We didn't actually need everything else, I believe. If we just look at our auth now, verified token, it was the Google client ID. Okay, what about the front end? Why was it in like almost a continuous loop? So if is authenticated, fetch protected data, probably something just the way this is either re-rendering or something because I have stuff down here. But we can fix that in a little bit. We have our fetch protected data. Okay, let's try just starting and stopping, and maybe we can get some hints from the running code to see what's going on. So if we go over here and we say localhost 3000, it's the protected home page, and we inspect, we probably route to our login component by default. So then if we look at network, it's okay. Let's sign out. So that's there. And what I'm going to say is just in here, why don't we get a little bit more? Take this and we're going to say a new chat. I'm going to say, how can I separate this out into separate components where separate routes where the login is one page and the logged in is called dashboard. I'm going to let that go through and see what it can do. All right, so we're probably going to have to create it. First, let's create a new login component. Sure. Dashboard component. Sure. Then the index.ts, we're going to do some things. Okay. The app.tx, wrap the whole thing in a session provider. Okay, I like that. So let us start doing that. So we have our login tsx, and what we want to do is it says let's make a new dashboard component. Let's start off with that. Let's say new file. We'll say new file dashboard.ts. We don't need to call it the component. Probably this one too. We'll just call it protected. That's for now. And then inside the dashboard, we're going to copy what it has here and paste that. Probably good at some point to take our class names and create explicit components out of these. We'll probably break that down in future videos. And then we're going to need a new file. We're going to call it login.tsx, and that's what it wants over here. So we're going to copy that. Oh, and it's saying it didn't have the SVG stuff. So let's copy that. Assistify logo is going to be there. So if we go Assistify logo, and then what else was in here? Then it said the existing SVG path. So we look at it again. There was some here. What is the difference of the Assistify logo here? Is that actually used? Yeah, Assistify logo. Let's look at the front end. What was the SVG there? So this is just component. I'm sorry, protected. We'd want to import that. Oh, it made the Google logo out of an SVG. Interesting. We could probably just find a Google logo to import at some point. Let's copy that on over. If we had our login component, it was all of that, right? Yep. So we're going to copy. Make sure that's there. And then inside of our index.tsx, we're going to get server-side props used anywhere. It doesn't look like it. So let's just do that. And then, oh, what did it do? Save that. And then in our app.tsx, we're going to, or I'm sorry, our underscore app.tsx, we're going to just put this so everything's wrapped. It looked like that was already there. And then what does that do? Does that make our reload? Yeah, so now we have our sign in with Google. Let's try that real quick and pick this. Yeah, continue. And then let's look at our network. Let's see if that helped out. Nope, we're still just banging out the protected. So that makes it so it's easier to manage. Now we're going to say the issue is that the fetch data request being called an infinite loop is likely due to the dependency array and use effect hook. To ensure the effect is only called once, you could provide an empty dependencies array. Okay, let's try that real quick because yeah, it probably thinks these things were changing over and over again. If we try that again, let's save. And then let's look back at our site. We sign in again, continue. And there we go. It's not being called in an infinite loop. Love it. We need to deploy everything up and make sure that it is working on our server. So let's go to our stuff and let's review what has changed. We did do that. We slimmed down some of our dependencies and added things that helped us for debugging. We're going to keep that. Yep, this is our new protected route on the back end. Here's our test for those. And then more tests. Here's how we actually verified the token. Our separated out components. Yep, a protected component. Our index TSS. We can actually probably get rid of this login TSX now. So let's try removing that real quick because that's not actually used. And let's make sure everything works real quick on the front end. Oh, let's undo. How is that still being used? So let's stop this and say clear. And then we're going to say yarn dev. I would have thought that the way we set things up, the app should be just directing to the dashboard or the login and not using that login TSX. Page cannot be found. What did I do? It's like these routes are not in there. Do they gotta actually be pages in order for it to show? Probably. So if we move this here and the login here, and we can replace that for now. And then let's reload again. Probably got to be lowercase because that's what it had. Okay, and now it's saying it cannot find something. So inside of our dashboard, we still had protected component, and that is just called protected now. Okay, so now it looks like we're in a better spot. And I'm still getting used to how Next.js works. A lot of implicit things. Okay, and we can see that we're still in a good state here. So I want to actually just commit up all of that so that way I know what I changed this time. And we're going to say add Google Authentication to backend and have front end all protected route. We're just going to commit that up. Okay. I'm just trying to clean up some stuff real quick so I can see it better. And we don't need the sign in part here. So we're just going to get rid of all that. And then why does it not have the session? A session is possibly null. And what we want to do is we're going to say if or not session. Yeah, that'll take care of that. Then I wonder if we do something similar here. If we say if status is on the login, we come over here and we say if status, we're going to have to pull status out of that data object. If status, we're going to have to pull in the router too. Where was that at? Router, use router, that's fine. And we're going to import that. And we don't actually need the Assistify logo in here anymore because we can import that. Okay, so if it is authenticated and session, we're going to push dashboard. Okay, And then we can get rid of the stuff at the bottom here. Okay. Let's see what that does. If I reload, sign in with Google, RDM AI, continue. There we go. We could take this right here and we'll say new file. We'll say Google logo.tsx and we'll just say export const like this. Export const, it'll be all wrapped around. And this is Google logo, so that's out of there. And now we'll take that and we'll import it inside of our login page so it's a little prettier. We'll just say right here, we'll say Google logo, we'll import that. And that makes this look a little prettier. We don't need our console log anymore. Don't need our console log. We don't need, well, we'll leave those in here for now. Okay, let's reload. Now, if I go to the root, what happens? It brought me to the dashboard. That's cool. I sign out. It goes to login, sign in. It goes to dashboard. It'd be nice if it didn't flick like that. Wonder if there's a way inside the login itself to do that. So like wherever we're clicking this Google logo, we're signing in on click, sign in with Google. Let's ask real quick and then I'm about to be done. Is there a way to automatically redirect to the dashboard once sign in is complete? Question mark. I see it quickly returns back to the login page and then redirects to the dashboard. Okay, so then sign on click. Oh, there's a callback. To ensure automatically redirect to the dashboard is complete without the intermediate, you can use the sign in function's callback URL to directly navigate. I love that. And that makes it better so that way we don't have this little chunk here. Okay, so if we just take this right here, this on click, let's try changing that to this callback URL here. And then we shouldn't actually need this because we might want people to be able to go to the login page, even if they're not authenticated. Maybe they want to navigate there or do something. So let's try real quick again. So if we sign out, sign in, continue. That's beautiful. That's much better. Okay. Let's push all this up one more time. And then we'll make sure everything deploys, and that'll probably be it for this video. Fix routing and login for front end. We need to get push that. And then let's take a peek at our GitHub actions to make sure everything is still playing nice. So if we go over to our app, we'll go to our actions and they are kicking off. Let's look at our tests. Let's make sure our tests are running. Our API test pass, our UI tests are doing its thing. Although we only have the one test, we need to add a lot more testing to the UI. And what I think I'm going to have to add to the API is the Google client ID in order for that to work. But we can verify that when we get there. So now if we go back, yeah, that one finished. Are we deploying things? Now let's fly.io, and then we'll log in our app here. We're going to go over to secrets here. I'm going to say new secret. And we're probably going to have to add what we had in our code base. We just needed the client ID verify token. Yep, so we just need the Google client ID. As long as we don't have the secret shown all the way, I don't think that's going to be a problem. Oh, in this login, we're actually not even using this use section or router anymore. So we're clearing that up. We'll commit that up here in a little bit. Okay. So then the secret here, we're going to save that secret. And let's look at our workflows. It looks like all of them deployed. That's good. So we can see that. It looks like it deployed to the back end and to Vercel. Let's see what happens if we try to hit that. There we go. I was about to say it wasn't returning the thing that I expect. We'll sign in with Google, pick an account. Oh, and then we got our authenticated route already. That's cool. Thanks for joining me on this adventure. To quickly recap what we did is we added authenticated endpoints to our front end of our Next.js application using Google Authentication. and we sent our bearer token through to our backend, and our backend verifies the token. We wrote some tests around the backend to make sure our verified token and our protected endpoint returns what we'd expect. And in the end, we have this message right here that is coming from our backend of our protected endpoint. We looked and saw that if we call this directly in Postman without a bearer token, we get a 401 error. And with that, in our next couple of videos, we'll actually start getting to play with some fun technologies, since everything that we can do now can be protected and not just open to the world as we access OpenAI and start doing things that involve our API tokens. We just wouldn't want people to be able to call chat a million times and have us pay the bill. I appreciate you joining me on this authentication journey, and have a great day and happy coding. Till next time.